Eat this cake and you will suffer no more." And the boss cried when he saw what was in the cake. Rachel Thompson had never seen her employer refuse a sweet with such vehemence until that day when she decided to prepare something special to cheer her up. Having worked for 3 months as a caregiver in the elegant Anderson residence on the Upper East Side, New York, she witnessed daily the silent suffering of Mrs. Catherine, a 78-year-old lady who seemed to have completely lost her will to live. It was when Rachel whispered those words that changed everything. "Eat this cake, and you will suffer no more." The young caregiver, only 25 years old, held a small homemade cake decorated with 3 colorful candles, her brown eyes shining with a determination Mrs. Catherine could not understand. "I haven't eaten sweets for months, Rachel." "You know that," murmured the elderly woman, adjusting the floral scarf she always wore on her head since she had started losing her hair due to the medications. "I know, Mrs. Catherine, but this one is different. This will bring back the lady I know exists inside you." Dr. Michael Anderson, 52, watched the scene from the doorway of his mother's room with a suspicious expression. Something about Rachel's behavior made him uneasy. The young woman had come to the family through a highly recommended caregiver agency, but in recent days he had noticed strange changes in her behavior. "Rachel, my mother already said she doesn't want it," intervened Michael, adjusting the dark blue tie he always wore even on weekends. "Please respect her decision. Dr. Michael, with all due respect, your mother needs something to remind her that there are still reasons to smile." The caregiver knelt beside the wheelchair where Mrs. Catherine spent most of her days, looking out the bedroom window that overlooked the sea of Greenwich Village. Rachel held the small cake carefully, as if it were the most precious object in the world. "Mrs. Catherine, I found something very special when I was organizing the attic last week. You gave me permission to tidy up there, remember?" The elderly woman slowly turned her face, her faded blue eyes focusing on the young woman for the first time in weeks. Michael moved closer, intrigued. He had forbidden anyone from touching the attic for years. How had Rachel gotten permission from his mother without him knowing? "What thing, Rachel?" asked Mrs. Catherine in a weak voice. "A very old notebook, full of handwritten recipes, very beautiful, very careful handwriting, and there was a recipe marked with a red ribbon, a very special one." Michael felt his blood run cold. He knew exactly which notebook Rachel was talking about. It was the notebook he had hidden in the attic over 20 years ago, after his mother had a nervous breakdown, trying to look for recipes from her deceased sister. "Rachel, I think you'd better take this cake to the kitchen. My mother has no appetite today," said Michael, trying to keep his voice firm. "But Dr. Michael, don't you want to know which recipe was marked?" "No, and I suggest you return that notebook to where you found it." Mrs. Catherine raised a trembling hand, interrupting the discussion between her son and the caregiver. "Wait a moment, Michael. What recipe was it, Rachel?" "It was a cornmeal and coconut cake, Mrs. Catherine, but it wasn't just any recipe. At the bottom it was written, 'For my dear sister, for when the longing tightens the heart,' and it was signed, 'With eternal love, Dorothy.'" The silence that followed was so thick it seemed to cut the air. Michael leaned against the wall, his face losing all color. "Mrs. Catherine began to tremble, tears welling in her eyes for the first time in months. "Dorothy," whispered the elderly woman. "My sister, Dorothy." "Mother, please, don't do this to yourself," begged Michael, approaching the wheelchair. "You know how you get when you talk about Aunt Dorothy." "Dr. Michael," said Rachel, her voice gaining an unexpected firmness, "I think Mrs. Catherine needs to know some things about her sister." "Rachel, you are crossing every line. You are hired to care for my mother's health, not to dig up the family's past." "And what if I told you, Dr. Michael, that caring for her health includes caring for her soul? That some wounds only heal when the truth comes out?" Mrs. Catherine looked at Rachel with an intensity she hadn't shown in months. Even with the scarf covering part of her face, you could see curiosity being reborn in her eyes. "What truth, dear?" "The truth about why Mrs. Dorothy left home. The truth about what really happened back then." Michael took a step forward, his jaw tight. Rachel, I am warning you for the last time. Stop this now, or you will be fired immediately. Dr. Michael, with all due respect, but I cannot stop, not after what I discovered. The young caregiver took a deep breath and looked directly at Mrs. Catherine. Ma'am, your sister did not leave of her own free will. She was forced to leave. How do you know that? Exploded Michael. You didn't even know our family 3 months ago. I know because she told me personally. The cake almost fell from Rachel's hands when she saw Mrs. Catherine's reaction. The elderly woman straightened up in her chair as if she had received an electric shock. What do you mean she told you? Rachel, my sister died 15 years ago. No, Mrs. Catherine. Your sister is alive. She lives here in New York, just 20 minutes from this house. Michael felt dizzy. He held onto the doorframe, the world seeming to spin around him. How was it possible? He was sure that Aunt Dorothy had died. The death certificate, the documents. This is impossible, he murmured. I saw the documents. What documents, Dr. Michael? Asked Rachel, her eyes shining with an almost fierce determination. The documents that proved her death. The hospital called me. What hospital? What date? Do you have those papers? Michael hesitated. The truth was he had never seen any document. There were only phone calls, conversations he preferred to forget, people he paid so his mother would never look for her sister again. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Rachel, said Mrs. Catherine, her voice choked. If my sister is alive, why did she never look for me? Why did she never try to get in touch? She did try, Mrs. Catherine, many times, all these years. The young caregiver placed the cake on the bedside table and sat on the edge of the bed, coming eye level with Mrs. Catherine. Mrs. Dorothy told me she wrote letters for 20 years, letters that were never answered, that she called this house dozens of times, but they always said you didn't want to speak with her. That is not true, exploded Mrs. Catherine, trying to rise from her chair. I never received any letters. No one ever told me about any calls. Michael felt the floor open beneath his feet. The tears he had held back for decades began to stream down his face. Mother! Michael, what is this story? What letters? What calls? Mother, I can explain. Then explain, shouted the elderly woman, her voice gaining a strength it hadn't had in years. Explain why my sister thought I didn't want to speak with her anymore. Because I intercepted everything, confessed Michael, collapsing into the armchair by the window. The letters, the calls, the messages, everything. The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Catherine looked at her son as if she was seeing a stranger. Why? She whispered. Because you would get sick every time you talked about her. Because I saw you cry for months after she left. Because I thought it was better for you to forget. But it wasn't your decision to make, shouted the elderly woman, pounding her fist on the arm of the chair. It wasn't your decision to decide whether I could or couldn't speak to my own sister. Rachel watched the scene with a heavy heart, but she knew that pain was necessary. It was the price of truth. Dr. Michael, she said softly, do you know where your aunt is living? Yes, he admitted, not lifting his eyes from the floor. I've always known. For how long? Since she left home. Over 40 years ago. Mrs. Catherine let out a groan of pain that broke Rachel's heart. The young woman knelt beside the chair and held the elderly woman's trembling hands. Mrs. Catherine, your sister opened a small pastry shop in the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood. She never married, never had children. She spent her whole life hoping that one day you would show up there. How do you know all this? Asked Michael, finally raising his tear-streaked face. Because I've been going there every afternoon for the last 2 weeks. When I leave here, I go talk to her. You what? Michael jumped to his feet. I found out where she lived through the notebook. The old address was written on one of the pages. I went there, talked to neighbors, followed the clues until I found her. Rachel, whispered Mrs. Catherine. How is she? She's well physically, but she's very sad, Mrs. Catherine, very lonely. She told me that every year, on your birthday, she makes this cake and eats it alone, thinking of you. Mrs. Catherine looked at the small cake decorated with 3 candles. "Today is my birthday. I know, she asked me to bring this cake to you. She said if you ate it, you would know it was made with the same love as always." The elderly woman reached a trembling hand toward the cake, but stopped halfway. "Michael, why did you do this to me? Why did you separate me and my sister?" The man sat back down, running his hands through his graying hair. "Mother, don't you remember how you were when she left? You were hospitalized for 2 months. The doctors said you had a nervous breakdown. But I was sad because she had left. If I had known she wanted to come back, that she was trying to get in touch, I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me from what? From my own sister's love?" Rachel decided to intervene again. "Dr. Michael, may I ask why Mrs. Dorothy left home?" Michael hesitated, looking alternately at his mother and the caregiver. "It was because of my father. He discovered she was involved with someone he didn't approve of." "What kind of involvement?" asked Mrs. Catherine. "She was engaged, Mother. Engaged to a young man Dad didn't think was suitable for the family." "Why wasn't he suitable?" "Because he was poor. Because he worked as a construction worker. Because Father thought it would stain the family's reputation." Mrs. Catherine closed her eyes, memories returning like an avalanche. "John, she was engaged to John." "Exactly, and Dad gave her an ultimatum. Either she broke off the engagement or she left home. And she chose to leave. She chose love, Mother. But I only understood that a long time later." Rachel felt she was getting to the heart of the matter, but there were more layers to uncover. "Dr. Michael, and what happened to John?" Michael stopped, swallowing hard. "He died in a work accident 3 months after they left here." "My God," moaned Mrs. Catherine. "My poor sister. After that she was alone, completely alone, and I thought she wouldn't want to come back anyway, that she would resent the family forever. But she wanted to come back, Dr. Michael. She told me that after she lost John, the only thing she wanted was to be near her sister again." "Why did you never tell me this, Michael?" asked Mrs. Catherine, her voice full of pain. "Why did you let me live all these years thinking my sister had abandoned me?" "Because I was a coward, Mum. Because I didn't want to admit I had made the wrong decision." The confession echoed through the room like a gunshot. Michael collapsed into sobs, finally releasing the guilt he had carried for decades. Rachel decided it was time to reveal what else she had discovered. "Mrs. Catherine, there's one more thing you need to know." "What else, dear?" "Your sister kept all the letters she wrote to you, all the letters that were never delivered. There are over 200 letters. 200 letters. She showed me some of them. In them she tells her whole life story. The places she lived, the jobs she had, how she opened the bakery, how she thought of you every day." Mrs. Catherine finally reached out and took a piece of the cake. When the flavor touched her tongue, a flood of childhood memories rushed into her mind. It was exactly like the cakes Dorothy used to make when they were children. "It's the same taste," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She told me she never changed the recipe, that she made this cake thinking of the day you two would eat together again." Michael rose from the armchair and approached his mother. "Mom, I know you'll never forgive me for what I did. I know I stole 40 years from the two of you, but I beg you to let me try to fix this." "How, Michael? How are you going to fix 40 lost years?" "Let me take you to her. Today, now." Mrs. Catherine looked at her son, then at Rachel, then at the cake in her hands. She'll want to see me." "Mrs. Catherine," said Rachel, smiling for the first time since that difficult conversation had begun. "She has been waiting for this moment every day for 40 years. The elderly woman finished the piece of cake and asked Rachel to push her chair to the bedroom mirror. "I can't go meet my sister like this. I need to get ready." "Mom, you look beautiful." "Michael, I've been wearing the same nightgown for 3 days. My hair is awful under this scarf. I need to get ready to meet my sister." Rachel smiled, seeing the sparkle returning to Mrs. Catherine's eyes. "Let's do it then, Mrs. Catherine. Let's make you beautiful to meet Mrs. Dorothy." While Rachel helped Mrs. Catherine get ready, Michael left the room to make some calls. He needed to cancel appointments. He needed to mentally prepare for the meeting he had avoided for decades. When he called the office, his secretary noticed something different in his voice. "Dr. Michael, are you all right? You sound emotional." "I am, Karen. I'm going to resolve something I should have resolved a long time ago." "Do you need anything? Pray for me. Pray that I find the strength to ask forgiveness for something terrible I did." Karen had never heard her boss speak like that. In 15 years of working for him, Michael had always been a controlled, rational man. That vulnerability worried her. "Dr. Michael, are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" "No, Karen. This is a journey I need to make alone. Well, not alone, with my mother and with a very brave young woman who opened my eyes." Back in the room, Rachel had helped Mrs. Catherine change her clothes and comb the few hairs she still had. The elderly woman now wore a light blue dress that brought out her eyes and had swapped the floral scarf for a more delicate silk one. "Do I look presentable?" she asked, uncertain. "You look beautiful, Mrs. Catherine. Your sister will be so happy to see you." Michael returned to the room and was moved to see his mother's transformation. She wasn't just more put together, she was more alive. "Ready, Mum?" "I don't think I'll ever be completely ready for this, Michael. But yes, let's go." The drive to Brooklyn Heights was made in silence. Michael drove, Rachel was in the passenger seat, and Mrs. Catherine was in the back, looking out the window and trying to recognize the city that had changed so much in the recent years she had barely left the house. "Rachel," she said softly, "can you tell me about your first meeting with my sister?" "Of course, Mrs. Catherine. I was nervous, to tell you the truth. I didn't know how to bring it up. I went into the bakery like a regular customer and ordered a coffee with a pastry. And then? She served me herself. She's a very kind, very polite lady. When she brought my order, I commented on how the sweets seemed to be made with a lot of care. She smiled and said cooking was her way of putting love into the world. That sounds so much like the Dorothy I knew. Then I asked if she knew a specific recipe for coconut cornbread. She stopped what she was doing and looked at me carefully. She asked why I wanted to know. Michael listened to the conversation in the rearview mirror, his heart tight with remorse. "And what did you say?" "I said I was caring for a very sad lady who had lost touch with her family, and that I thought maybe that recipe could cheer her up. I didn't mention any names yet." "And she?" "She started to cry, Mrs. Catherine. Right there in front of a stranger. She said she had a sister who loved that recipe, but she had lost touch a long time ago. Oh my God. That's when I realized I had found the right person. I said maybe I could help bring the two sisters together again. And she agreed. At first she was suspicious. She said she had already suffered too much from false hope, but when I described the lady, describing her features, she began to believe. Michael stopped at a red light and took the opportunity to turn around. "Mom, I want you to know that whatever happens today, I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the wrong I did." "Michael, I'm still processing all of this. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why you did what you did, but I know you also suffered because of this situation." "I did, Mom, more than you can imagine." "Why did you never tell me?" "Because with each passing year it became harder to admit, because I dug myself into such a deep hole I no longer knew how to get out of it." The light turned green and they continued the drive. Rachel took the opportunity to share more details about her conversations with Dorothy. "Mrs. Catherine, your sister told me she has a picture of you in her bedroom, an old photo from when you were young." "What photo?" "A photo of you two in the backyard of the house where you grew up. You're wearing a white dress with blue flowers, and Mrs. Dorothy is wearing a yellow dress." Mrs. Catherine brought her hand to her chest, moved. "I remember that photo. It was for Dorothy's 15th birthday. Mom insisted on taking a picture of us together. She said she looks at that photo every day, that it's the first thing she sees when she wakes up and the last when she goes to sleep." Michael felt a stab in his chest. While he lived his comfortable life, building a career, starting a family, his aunt spent 40 years looking at a photo, nurturing a longing he could have healed at any moment. "Rachel," he said, "when you told my aunt you had met me, what did she say?" At first she became tense. She asked if you were okay, if you were in good health. Then she asked if you still lived in the same house. She asked about me? Yes, she did. She said she always worried about you, that she knew you had taken on all the family responsibility after she left. Michael had to pull the car over. Tears were blurring his vision. Dr. Michael, are you all right? No, Rachel. I am not all right. I found out I deprived two people I love of 40 years of happiness. How can I be all right? Mrs. Catherine reached her hand from the back seat and touched her son's shoulder. Michael, now is not the time to punish yourself. Now is the time to fix things. They arrived in the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood as the sun began to set. The bakery was on a quiet street, with old houses and lots of greenery around. There was a simple sign, Dorothy's Sweets. Michael parked the car in front of the establishment, and for a moment, nobody moved. She's in there, whispered Rachel. How do you know? Because she told me that every day at 5 in the afternoon, she's in the kitchen preparing the sweets for the next day. It's 5:15. Mrs. Catherine looked through the car window at the simple facade of the bakery. After 40 years, her sister was just a few meters away. What if she doesn't want to see me? She asked, sudden insecurity taking hold of her. Mrs. Catherine, I promise you that won't happen. How can you be sure? Because yesterday, I told her that maybe today I'd bring a surprise. She made me promise 3 times that I wasn't playing with her feelings. Michael got out of the car and went to the trunk to get his mother's wheelchair. His hands were shaking so much he had trouble opening it. Dr. Michael, said Rachel, getting out of the car, do you want me to go in first and prepare her? No, we'll go in together. They helped Mrs. Catherine settle into the wheelchair and slowly made their way to the bakery door. Michael pushed the chair. Rachel walked beside them. Mom, last chance. Are you sure you want to do this? Michael, I've already lost 40 years. I'm not going to lose another day. The doorbell chimed as they entered. The bakery was small and cozy, with wooden tables and a counter full of sweets that gave off a delicious aroma. Rachel, came a voice from the kitchen. Is that you? It's me, Mrs. Dorothy, and I brought the surprise I promised. A woman of about 75 came out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a floral apron. When she saw Mrs. Catherine in the wheelchair, she stopped immediately, as if she'd seen a ghost. The two sisters looked at each other in silence for a time that seemed eternal. Michael watched the scene with his heart in his throat, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had done. Catherine, whispered Dorothy, her voice choked. Hi, sister, replied Mrs. Catherine, tears streaming freely. Dorothy approached slowly, as if afraid it was just a dream that could vanish at any moment. Is it really you? It's me, Dorothy, your sister Catherine. The two women embraced with an intensity that made Rachel cry too. Michael had to lean against the wall to keep from collapsing. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. I thought you had died, sobbed Dorothy. I thought I'd never see you again. I thought you had died too. Michael told me. Dorothy pulled away from the hug and looked at her nephew, who remained standing near the entrance, clearly uncomfortable. Michael, she said, her voice full of conflicting emotions. Aunt Dorothy, you've grown so much. You look so different. Aunt, Come here, boy. Michael approached hesitantly. Dorothy hugged him too, and he broke down in tears. Aunt, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Shh, it's all right now. You are here. That's all that matters. Rachel observed the family gathering with a full heart. This was exactly the scene she had imagined when she decided to investigate the story of the two sisters. Dorothy, said Mrs. Catherine, I ate your cake today, the cornmeal cake with coconut. You ate it? I did, and for the first time in months I felt like living again. I make this cake every year on your birthday. Every year I imagine you eating it with me. And now I am here. And now you are here. Dorothy went to the counter and brought another cake identical to the one Rachel had taken to Mrs. Catherine that morning. I made this one early today, as I do every year. Would you like to share it with me? I do. I really do. They sat at the table, with Michael and Rachel completing the circle. Dorothy cut the cake and served everyone. "Rachel," said Dorothy, "I don't know how to thank you. You brought my sister back to me. Actually, Mrs. Dorothy, you two were never truly apart. The love between you was always there. But if you hadn't come here, someone would have come sooner or later. True love always finds a way." Michael, who had been silent since they sat down, finally found the courage to speak. "Aunt Dorothy, I need to tell you the truth about these 40 years. "Michael, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You have the right to know." And then Michael told everything: the intercepted letters, the blocked calls, the lies he had spread to keep the two sisters apart. He told of his fear of seeing his mother suffer, of how that overprotection turned into a prison for both of them. Dorothy listened in silence, occasionally exchanging glances with her sister. "Michael," she said when he finished, "I won't say I'm not hurt, because I am. 40 years is a long time. I know, Aunt, and I know there's nothing I can do to give that time back to you. But I also know you were just a boy when all this started, a frightened boy trying to protect his mother the best way he knew how. But I wasn't a boy anymore 20, 30 years ago, and I kept you apart. That's true, but you are here now. You are bringing her to me. That means something." Mrs. Catherine held her sister's hand. "Dorothy, tell me about your life. Tell me everything I missed." "Catherine, it's been 40 years. Where do I begin?" "Start with John. Rachel told me he died 3 months after we left home. A work accident. Did you love him very much?" "I did. But after he died, I realized what I wanted most in the world was to come home, to come back to you." "Why didn't you come back?" "Because I tried, sister. I tried so many times." Dorothy got up and went to a cabinet behind the counter. From there she took out an old shoebox. "These are all the letters I wrote to you over the years, letters that were never answered." Mrs. Catherine took the box with trembling hands. There were hundreds of envelopes, all addressed to her. "May I read them?" "You may. They are yours. They always were." Mrs. Catherine opened the first envelope. The letter was dated 6 months after Dorothy left. "My dear sister Catherine, I know you must be angry with me for choosing John over family. But I hope that one day you will understand that I wasn't choosing between you. I was choosing love, and I thought you more than anyone would understand that." "Dorothy," whispered Mrs. Catherine, "I was never angry with you for choosing John." "You weren't?" "No. I was sad because you left, but I always understood your choice. I was angry with Dad for forcing you to choose." "Then why did you never answer me?" Mrs. Catherine looked at Michael, who lowered his head. "Because I never received your letters." Dorothy looked at her nephew with an expression of gradual understanding. All of them, admitted Michael. "I intercepted the letters. When you called, I told the housekeepers to say my mother didn't want to talk." "Michael." "Aunt, I know it's unforgivable. I know there's no justification. But I swear I thought I was protecting both of you from more pain." Dorothy stayed silent for a few minutes, processing the information. Then she got up and walked to the window of the bakery. "Do you know how many nights I spent awake, wondering what I had done that was so terrible for my sister to hate me so much?" "Dorothy," began Mrs. Catherine, "how many times did I think of giving up, of moving far away, because I couldn't bear living in the same city knowing you were here but didn't want to see me?" Michael stood up and approached his aunt. "Aunt, I am responsible for all this pain, mine and both of yours. If there's anyone you should hate, it's me." Dorothy turned to look at him. "Michael, I don't hate you. I don't know how, but I can't hate you." "Why not?" "Because you were the son I never had. Because when you were little, you called me Mommy Dorothy. Because I taught you to ride a bike and comforted you when you fell." Tears returned to Michael's eyes. "I remember that. You were a sweet, affectionate boy. And I know that deep down, that boy is still here. A boy who loves his mother so much he was capable of making terrible decisions to protect her. But I hurt both of you. You did. But you also brought us back to each other. Not today, But in all these years you kept my sister alive and well cared for. Dorothy returned to the table and held Mrs. Catherine's hands. Catherine, tell me about your life. Did you get married? I did, to Dr. William Anderson. He died 5 years ago. Were you happy? We were. He was a good man, but he never knew about you. I never told him I had a sister. Why? Because it hurt too much to talk about it. And because Michael convinced me that you didn't want to know me anymore. And children, besides Michael? Just Michael. We had trouble having children. Michael was a miracle. Dorothy looked at her nephew with renewed affection. A miracle who grew up and became a successful doctor. Aunt, I want you to know that I can take care of both of you now. Financially, I mean. You'll never have to worry about money again. Michael, I don't need your money. But Aunt, you work in a small bakery. This bakery is mine, Michael. I managed to buy it 10 years ago. Yours? Mine. And it's doing quite well, thank you. Rachel smiled, seeing the surprise on Michael's face. Dorothy had become an independent and successful woman on her own. Catherine, said Dorothy, would you like to help me at the bakery? Now that we've found each other again, I don't want to be apart from you anymore. Dorothy, I'm in a wheelchair. I don't know if I can be useful. You can be my eyes for the details. You can taste the recipes. You can greet the customers. There are many things you can do. You really want me to work with you? I want you to be part of my life again, in whatever way you can. Mrs. Catherine looked at Michael. Michael, what do you think? Mom, I think it's a great idea, as long as you don't overexert yourself. And you, Michael, asked Dorothy, would you like to be part of our family again? Aunt, I don't know if I deserve. Michael, deserving isn't the question. The question is if you want to fix what was broken. I do, more than anything in the world. Then it's decided. Starting today, we are a family again. Rachel got up from the table. I think it's time for me to leave and let you two talk alone. Rachel, no, said Mrs. Catherine. You're part of this family now too. Mrs. Catherine, I won't take no for an answer. You brought my sister back to me. You're an angel that God placed in my path. Rachel, said Dorothy, I'd like to make you a proposal. What proposal, Mrs. Dorothy? How about you stop being a caregiver and come work with me at the bakery? I can teach you everything about sweets, and you can help me look after your Mrs. Catherine at the same time. Rachel looked at Michael, uncertain. Dr. Michael, what do you think? Rachel, I think you should do what makes you happiest, but I would like to keep paying your salary, regardless of where you work. Why? Because you saved my family, and because I have 40 years of mistakes to make up for. Dr. Michael, that's not necessary. For me it is. For me it's very necessary. Dorothy got up and went to the cabinet again. This time she brought out a photo album. Catherine, do you want to see pictures of how I lived all these years? I'd love to. They sat side by side, flipping through the album. There were photos of Dorothy from different times in different places, always alone but always smiling. You seem to have been happy, observed Mrs. Catherine. I was, as much as possible. I learned to find joy in the small things, in the recipe that turned out right, in the customer who left satisfied, in the sunset I saw from the kitchen window. But did you miss me? Every day, especially on holidays, on birthdays, I always made 2 plates, 2 slices of cake, one for me and one for you, who was in my imagination. I missed you too, especially when Michael was little and got into some mischief. I always thought, Dorothy would have loved to see that. Tell me about Michael's mischief. And so the 2 sisters spent hours talking, recovering lost decades. Michael and Rachel listened in silence, sometimes laughing at the stories, sometimes moved by the intimacy being reborn between the 2 women. When it was already night, Dorothy suggested they all have dinner together. I have lasagna in the freezer. I can heat it up for all of us. Dorothy, you don't have to. Catherine, I spent 40 years dreaming of cooking for you again. Let me do this. During dinner, Michael found the courage to ask the questions that tormented him. Aunt, did you never want to get revenge on me? Never felt anger? Of course I did, Michael. especially in the early years when I still didn't understand what was happening. And now I see a man who carried a terrible weight for decades, a man who also suffered from the choices he made. I suffered, more than you can imagine. I know. It's in your eyes, in your posture. You're not a happy man, Michael. How can I be happy knowing what I did? By learning to forgive yourself, and by doing differently from now on. Can you teach me how? I can, but it will take time. After dinner, Michael offered to do the dishes, but Dorothy wouldn't let him. Today is a day of celebration. Dishes can wait. Aunt, can I ask you one more question? As many as you like. Why did you never marry again after John? Dorothy was thoughtful for a moment. Because I could never love anyone the way I loved John, and because a part of me always hoped that one day you would come back into my life. You don't regret it? Not getting married sometimes, especially when I saw happy families, but I always thought my destiny was different. And now that you've found us again, now I think my destiny has been fulfilled. When it was time to go home, no one wanted to part. Catherine, said Dorothy, you can come here every day if you want, or I can come to your house. What if we spent half a day in each place? Mornings at your house, afternoons here at the bakery. That would be perfect. Michael pushed his mother's wheelchair to the car, but before getting in, Mrs. Catherine asked him to stop. Michael, I want to tell you something. What is it, Mom? I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why you did what you did, but I know you were also a victim of your own choices. Mom, let me finish. You spent 40 years carrying this guilt. 40 years punishing yourself. I think that's enough, don't you? Do you forgive me? I'm trying, son, I'm trying. That's enough for me. On the way back, Rachel broke the silence. Dr. Michael, can I ask you a question? Of course. Did you really think you were protecting your mother, or were there other reasons for keeping the two apart? Michael drove in silence for a few minutes before answering. In the beginning, I really thought I was protecting her, but over time, I think I was afraid of sharing my mother with someone. Afraid of sharing or afraid of losing? Both. My father died when I was 15. My mother was all I had left of my family. The idea that she could become attached to someone more than me scared me. And now? Now I realize that love doesn't divide. Love multiplies. Mrs. Catherine, who had been silent in the back seat, finally spoke. Michael, you could never lose me. You are my son. Dorothy is my sister. They are different loves, but equally important. I understand that now, Mom, but it took me 40 years to learn. What matters is that you learned. When they arrived home, Michael helped his mother get settled in her room. She looked more alive than he had seen her in years. Mom, how do you feel? Tired but happy. Happier than I remember being in a long time. Do you think you'll be able to sleep? I think I'll sleep better tonight than I have in the last 5 years. Do you need anything? Just a promise. What promise? That you will never lie to me again, that no matter what happens, you will tell me the truth. I promise, Mom. And Michael? Yes? Thank you for taking me to her today. I know it was difficult for you. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it was also the rightest. Michael left his mother's room and found Rachel in the kitchen making tea. Rachel, can I talk to you? Of course, Dr. Michael. I want to thank you. You don't need to thank me. I just did what I thought was right. You did much more than that. You risked your job, faced my resistance, stirred up family secrets that could have blown up in your face. Dr. Michael, when I saw your mother's condition, when I saw how she was wasting away in that wheelchair, I knew something was very wrong. A person doesn't give up on life like that for no reason. And you decided to investigate. I grew up in an orphanage, Dr. Michael. I know the value of a family. I couldn't stand by and watch two sisters separated by pride or hurt. But how did you know it was worth stirring all this up? Because true love is always worth it. Always. Michael was silent for a few minutes, absently stirring his tea. Rachel, do you have family? No, Dr. Michael, just myself. Well, now you do. Today you gained a family. What do you mean? My mother is right. You are part of our family now, and families take care of each other. Rachel felt her eyes fill with tears. Dr. Michael. And there's one more thing. I want to double your salary. Dr. Michael, that's not necessary. For me it is. You gave me back my family, Rachel. You gave me back my mother and my aunt. How can I put a price on that? Then I accept, but on one condition. What? That you stop blaming yourself for the past and start building a better future. I accept. They drank their tea in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the extraordinary day they had lived. Dr. Michael, can I ask you one more question? As many as you like. What are you going to do now? What do you mean? Now that your mother and your aunt have reunited, now that the truth has come out, what are you going to do with your life? Michael thought for a long moment. I think for the first time in 40 years I'm going to try to be happy, genuinely happy. And how are you going to do that? I don't know yet, but I know I'll start by learning how to make my aunt's cakes. I want to create new memories to replace the bad ones. I think that's a great idea. And you, Rachel, what are you going to do? I'm going to accept Mrs. Dorothy's offer. I'm going to learn how to make sweets and take care of your mother at the same time. Are you sure? I am. For the first time in my life, I feel like I found my place in the world. Then it's decided. Tomorrow we start a new chapter of our lives. We start. They finished their tea and said good night. Michael went to his room but couldn't sleep immediately. He stood at the window looking at the sea, thinking about everything that had happened. For the first time in decades, he felt at peace with himself. The weight he carried on his shoulders had lessened considerably. There was still much to repair, much to learn, much forgiveness to ask for and to give. But for the first time, he had hope that it was possible. In the next room, Mrs. Catherine was also awake, but for completely different reasons. She was euphoric, energized, more alive than she had felt in years. For the first time since her husband's death, she had something to look forward to. She had plans for the next day, for the next week, for the rest of her life. Her sister was alive, was well, and wanted her back in her life. She thought of the letters Dorothy had written over the years, 200 letters of love, longing, hope, 200 missed opportunities for reconciliation, but also 200 proofs that the love between them had never died. Tomorrow she would start reading those letters, one by one. She would get to know her sister's life through the words written over 4 decades, and then she would write her own letters, telling her version of the story, her feelings, her regrets. But that was a task for tomorrow. Today had been the day of reconciliation. Tomorrow would be the day to build new paths. In her small house in Brooklyn Heights, Dorothy also couldn't sleep. But she was in the kitchen doing what she always did when she was emotional, making sweets. She was preparing a special recipe, one she hadn't made in 40 years. Catherine's favorite chocolate cake from when they were children. She wanted to surprise her sister the next day. As she mixed the ingredients, she thought about how life had come full circle. In the morning she was alone, as she had always been. By evening she had a family again, and all because of a brave young woman who refused to accept sadness as an inevitable fate. Rachel had been the angel they needed, the catalyst that made the impossible possible. Dorothy decided that from now on, she would make sure never to let a day pass without showing gratitude for the second chance life had given her. When she finished the cake, she sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter to Catherine. Not a letter of longing or regret, but a letter of joy and hope. My dear sister, today you came back into my life and I came back into yours. I don't know how many more days God will give us together, but I promise that each one will be filled with love, affection, and all the conversations we put off for later during these 40 years. I love you today. I loved you yesterday. I will love you always. Your sister, who never forgot you, Dorothy. She placed the letter inside an envelope and decided she would deliver it in person the next day. The days following the reunion were filled with adjustment and discoveries. Mrs. Catherine and Dorothy spent hours talking, making up for lost time. Michael made sure to be part of all the conversations, learning about the family he had helped separate and was now helping to reunite. Rachel began working at the bakery and quickly became not just an employee, but a sort of younger sister to the two women. She learned old recipes, listened to family stories, and contributed her own youthful energy to that atmosphere of healing and love. Michael made a point of having lunch at the bakery every day. At first, it was hard for him to be there, burdened with guilt as he was, but gradually he realized his aunt had truly forgiven him and that his presence brought joy to her and to her mother. A week after the reunion, something unexpected happened. Dr. Michael was at the bakery when a gentleman of about 70 entered and approached the counter. "Excuse me," he said to Rachel, "is the owner of this bakery here?" "Yes, she is, Mrs. Dorothy, there's a gentleman here asking for you." Dorothy came out of the kitchen and nearly dropped the tray of sweets she was carrying. "Robert?" Dorothy, Mrs. Catherine, who was sitting at a nearby table, looked curiously at the man. "Dorothy, who is this gentleman?" "Catherine, this is Robert. We met many years ago." Michael approached, intrigued by his aunt's reaction. "Robert," said Dorothy, clearly nervous, "what are you doing here?" "I heard you had reunited with your family. I wanted to congratulate you." "How did you know?" "Brooklyn Heights is a small neighborhood, Dorothy. News travels fast." "And why did you come here?" Robert looked around, seeing the whole family gathered, watching the conversation. "Can I speak with you in private?" "Robert, this is my family. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of them." "Are you sure?" "I am." Robert took a deep breath and looked directly at Dorothy. "Dorothy, I came here to ask you to marry me." The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone in the bakery stopped what they were doing to look at that improbable scene. "Robert," whispered Dorothy, "I know it's late. I know it might be too late. But I have loved you for 15 years and I never had the courage to tell you." 15 years? Since the day you served me my first coffee in this bakery. I have come here every day for 15 years, just to see you. Mrs. Catherine looked at Michael, who looked at Rachel, who looked back at the two sisters. "Robert," said Dorothy, "why did you never say anything before?" "Because you always seemed so sad, so distant. I thought you were still mourning John." "And now?" "Now you are radiant. You are more beautiful than I have ever seen you, and I realized that if I didn't speak now, I might never have the courage again." Dorothy looked at her sister, seeking support. "Catherine, what do you think?" "Dorothy, I haven't known you for 40 years, but I have known you for 40 years, if you understand me, and the Dorothy I knew was always brave enough to follow her heart." "Michael, what do you think?" Michael approached his aunt. "Aunt, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have someone who loves and cares for you." "Rachel?" "Mrs. Dorothy, love can come at any age, and Mr. Robert seems like a good person." Dorothy looked back at Robert. "Robert, are you sure of what you're doing? I am 75 years old, and I am 72. We are not children anymore, Dorothy. We know the value of time and of true love. What if I say yes? So I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the 15 years I lost by being too cowardly to tell you I loved you." Dorothy fell silent for a few minutes, clearly wrestling with conflicting emotions. "Robert, I need time to think." "How much time?" "A week." "All right. I'll wait." Robert headed for the door, but before leaving he turned to the gathered family. "And thank you for bringing the joy back to her eyes. Whatever her answer to my proposal is, I'm happy she has you all in her life again." After Robert left, the bakery was quiet for a few moments. "Well," said Mrs. Catherine finally, "that was unexpected." "Did you know him, Aunt?" asked Michael. "I've known him for years. He's one of the bakery's most loyal customers. But I never imagined—" "That he was in love with you?" Rachel completed. "Yes. It never crossed my mind." "And how do you feel about him?" I don't know. He's a kind, polite man. He's always been respectful to me. But love, I don't know if I'm still capable of loving someone like that." "Dorothy," said Mrs. Catherine, You're still a young woman. 75 is not the end of the world. Catherine, I've spent the last 40 years of my life alone. I've grown accustomed to the solitude. But now you're not alone anymore. You have your family back. Maybe it's time to have a family of your own too. Michael, what do you really think? Aunt, I think you should get to know his feelings better, and your own feelings. How? Agree to go out with him a few times. Talk to him. Find out who he really is beyond the loyal bakery customer. Rachel, do you agree? Mrs. Dorothy, you spent 40 years waiting to reunite with your family. Now that you have, perhaps it's time to open yourself up to other possibilities for happiness. Dorothy spent the following week thinking about Robert's proposal. During that time, he continued coming to the bakery every day, as he always did. But now there was a different tension in the air. Mrs. Catherine watched the interactions between her sister and Robert with growing interest. She could see there was something between them, something that perhaps had always been there but had never been acknowledged. Michael also watched and was surprised to find himself feeling jealous at the possibility of his aunt getting married. He talked about it with Rachel. Rachel, do you think it's normal for me to feel this way? What do you mean, Dr. Michael? Bothered by the possibility of my aunt getting married. Why are you bothered, sir? Because I just found her again. I don't want to share her with anyone. Dr. Michael, don't you think you're repeating the same pattern from 40 years ago? Rachel's question hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. You think I am? I do. You separated your mother from her sister because you didn't want to share your mother's love. Now you're bothered by the possibility of sharing your aunt's love. But I just got to know her again. And she just got a second chance at happiness. Are you going to take that from her too? Michael fell silent, processing Rachel's words. You're right, I'm doing the same thing again. But now you recognize the pattern. You can do it differently. How? By supporting her decision, whatever it is. On the night before the day Dorothy was to give her answer to Robert, Michael went to the bakery after hours. Aunt, can I talk to you? Of course, Michael. I came here to apologize to you. Why now? Because I realized I'm doing the same thing I did 40 years ago. I'm trying to control your life out of selfishness. What do you mean? I don't want you to marry Robert because I don't want to share you with anyone. But that's my selfishness, not care for you. Dorothy smiled and touched her nephew's face. Michael, you recognizing that is already great progress. Aunt, I want you to know that, whatever your decision is, I will support you. If you want to marry Robert, I'll be in the front row cheering. And if I don't want to, I'll support you too. Thank you, Michael. That means a lot to me. Have you decided what you'll say to him? Yes. Can you tell me? I'm going to say yes. Really? Really? Do you know why? Why? Because this week I realized that I like him, that I always have, but I never allowed myself to acknowledge it because I was too busy nurturing my longing for you all. And now that you're back in my life, I feel free to love someone else too. I'm happy for you, Aunt. Truly? Truly. The next day, when Robert entered the bakery to receive Dorothy's answer, the whole family was there. Mrs. Catherine, Michael, and Rachel had arranged to be present to support Dorothy, whatever her decision was. Robert, said Dorothy, I thought a lot about your proposal. And I accept marrying you. Robert was so moved he needed to sit down. You accept, truly? I do. But with a few conditions. What are they? First, I won't give up the bakery. It's my life. I don't want you to give it up. I can even help if you want. Second, my family is very important to me. They will be part of our life. I hope they are. I'd love to have a real family. Third, we won't get married in a church. Why? Because I want to get married here, in the bakery. This is where we met. This is where you proposed to me. It's here that I want to make our love official. Robert stood up and hugged Dorothy tightly. Dorothy, you would make me the happiest man in the world if you married me on the moon, let alone in your bakery. The whole family applauded, and Rachel began to cry with emotion. "When do you want to get married?" asked Mrs. Catherine. "As soon as possible," said Robert. "I've already waited 15 years. I don't want to wait any longer." "How about in a month?" suggested Dorothy. "Perfect." Michael approached Robert and extended his hand. "Welcome to the family, Robert." "Thank you, Michael. I promise I'll take good care of her. I know you will." The following month was one of intense wedding preparations. Dorothy and Robert decided on a small ceremony, just for family and a few close friends. Mrs. Catherine insisted on helping with every detail. She was more excited about her sister's wedding preparations than she had been about her own wedding decades before. Michael hired a professional photographer to record the ceremony, and Rachel took charge of preparing the sweets for the party. The big surprise came when Robert revealed he had a daughter who lived in Boston and whom he hadn't seen in years. "Why don't you two talk?" asked Dorothy. "Because of pride. My ex-wife left me when our daughter was 16, and I didn't know how to handle the situation. I ended up drifting apart from Jennifer, too. And now? Now, I want her to come to our wedding. I want her to meet you and your family. Robert, are you sure she'll accept the invitation?" "I'm not, but I need to try." Robert called his daughter that same day. The conversation was difficult, but Jennifer agreed to come to New York for her father's wedding. "Is she coming?" asked Dorothy when Robert hung up the phone. "She is, but she said she's only coming out of curiosity, to meet the crazy woman who agreed to marry me. She seems to have a sense of humor." "She does. She always has." Jennifer arrived in New York 2 days before the wedding. She was a woman of about 45, divorced, with 2 teenage children who had stayed in Boston. The first meeting between Jennifer and Dorothy was tense, but cordial. "So you're the woman who's going to marry my father," said Jennifer. "I am. And you are the daughter he loves so much, but didn't have the courage to look for." "He told you about me?" "He did. He told me he deeply regrets having distanced himself from you." "And you believe him?" "Jennifer, I've known your father for 15 years. He's a good man, but very proud. Too much pride can sometimes distance us from the people we love." Jennifer looked at her father, who was talking with Michael on the other side of the bakery. "Dorothy, can I ask you a question?" "As many as you like." "Why did you agree to marry him? You're not young anymore." "Exactly because of that. Because we're not young anymore. Because we know time is precious and true love is rare." "Do you really love him?" "I'm learning to love him, and he's learning to love me. It's not the passionate love of our youth. It's a calmer, wiser love. And is that enough?" "For us, it is." Jennifer was silent for a few minutes, watching the activity in the bakery. "Dorothy, my father seems different." "Different how?" "Happier, lighter. I haven't seen him like this in years." "And how do you feel about that?" "Confused. Part of me is happy for him. Another part is resentful that he never tried for this happiness with me." "Jennifer, do you want advice from someone who spent 40 years separated from family because of pride?" "I do. Don't let pride steal any more time from you. Your father made mistakes, but he's here now. You still have time to rebuild your relationship. What if it's too late?" "It's never too late to start over. I reunited with my sister at 75. You can reunite with your father at 45. That night, Jennifer had a long conversation with Robert. They talked until dawn, settling differences, asking for forgiveness, making promises of a better future. The wedding day dawned sunny. The bakery was decorated with white and yellow flowers, and tables were set up on the street, as the inside space was too small for all the guests. Dorothy wore a light blue dress, simple but elegant. Robert wore a dark suit and was visibly nervous. The ceremony was conducted by a justice of the peace who was a friend of Michael's. It was a simple ceremony but full of emotion. When it was time for the vows, Dorothy surprised everyone. "Robert, I promise to love you, not as I loved in the past, but as I know how to love in the present. I promise to share with you the years God still gives us, and to make every day a celebration of the love we found in each other." Robert was so moved he could barely speak. "Dorothy, I promise to make up for the 15 years I lost by not having the courage to tell you I loved you. I promise to be the companion you deserve and the man you inspire me to be." When the judge declared them husband and wife, everyone applauded and cried with emotion. Mrs. Catherine was radiant, seeing her sister finally find the love she deserved. Michael was moved, realizing how much he had grown by genuinely supporting his aunt's happiness. Rachel was happy to have been part of another love story that seemed impossible. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now continuing. During the party, Jennifer approached Dorothy. "Dorothy, I want to thank you." "For what?" "For giving me back my father." "Jennifer, I didn't give anything back. I just helped you two remember that you love each other." "Whatever it is, thank you, and welcome to the family." "Thank you, Jennifer. I'm happy to be part of your family now." The party went on late into the night. Dorothy and Robert danced to several songs, laughing like teenagers in love. Michael danced with his mother, who was wearing a pink dress that made her look 10 years younger. "Mother, you look beautiful today." "I'm happy, Michael. Happier than I've been in a long time." "Why?" "Because my sister found love. Because you found forgiveness. Because our family is whole again." "And you, Mother? Are you whole?" "I am, son. For the first time in 5 years I am whole." Rachel danced with several guests, including Michael, who surprised her with his kindness and attention. "Rachel, I want to thank you again." "Dr. Michael, today is a day for celebration, no more thanks." "But I need to say this. You saved our family." "Dr. Michael, your family saved itself. I just opened the door. A door that had been closed for 40 years, but was never locked. True love never locks itself away, it just hides behind fear." "You are very wise for someone so young. Or you are very young for people so old." They laughed together, and Michael realized he was feeling attracted to the young woman who had changed his life. But he decided that was not the moment to think about that. That moment was for celebrating his aunt's love and the reunification of his family. The party ended with Robert and Dorothy cutting the wedding cake, which had been made by the bride herself with Rachel's help. "It's the same cake you made for my daughter on the day of the reunion," observed Mrs. Catherine. "Yes, the cake that brought our family back. Now it is uniting two families." "Dorothy," said Robert, "can you teach me how to make this cake?" "I can. Why?" "Because I want to learn all your recipes. I want to be part of all your secrets." "Robert, my biggest secret was how much I loved you without knowing it. And now it's no longer a secret." They kissed to the applause of all present, and Rachel couldn't help but think that had been the most beautiful love story she had ever witnessed. After the wedding, the family's life settled into a new routine. Dorothy and Robert lived in a small house near the bakery, but spent most of their time at the establishment. Mrs. Catherine divided her time between Michael's house and the bakery, more active and involved than she had been in years. Michael began frequenting the bakery not just for lunch, but also to learn how to make sweets with his aunt. He discovered he had a talent for baking and began considering a career change. Rachel became the bakery manager and developed her own recipes that became a hit with customers. 3 months after the wedding, Michael made a decision that surprised everyone. "Mother, I'm going to sell my clinic." "Michael, why?" "Because I want to change my life. I want to work at the bakery with Aunt Dorothy and Rachel." "Michael, are you sure about this?" "Mother, I spent 40 years of my life building a successful career, but I was never truly happy. Now, for the first time, I've found something that makes me happy." "And what is that?" "Being part of this family, working with all of you, creating things with my own hands, being useful in a different way." Mrs. Catherine looked at her son with pride. "Michael, if that's what makes you happy, then I support your decision." "Really? Really? I just want you to be happy, son." Michael talked with Dorothy and Robert about his idea, and they were both enthusiastic. "Michael," said Dorothy, "it would be wonderful to have you working with us." "Aunt, I was thinking we could expand the bakery, maybe open a branch. Do you have a place in mind?" "What about Greenwich Village, near our house? That way my mother could be involved too. That's a great idea. Robert supported the expansion, and even Karen, who had decided to move to New York to be closer to her father, offered to help with managing the two shops. "Karen," said Dorothy, "do you have experience in management?" "I do. I worked at a consulting firm in Boston for 10 years. And would you like to work with us?" "I'd love to. It would be a chance to start a new life here in New York. And your children? They want to come too. They're curious to meet their grandfather and their new family." So 6 months after the two sisters reunited, the family had grown and transformed completely. Michael sold his clinic and invested the money in expanding the bakery. The new shop in Greenwich Village was an immediate success. Karen moved to New York with her two children, teenagers aged 15 and 17, who quickly adapted to their new life and began helping at the shops on weekends. Mrs. Catherine took on the role of general supervisor of the two shops, moving between them in her wheelchair, giving her input on recipes and customer service. Rachel became the head pastry chef and developed a line of diet sweets, especially for customers with dietary restrictions. Robert discovered a talent for cake decorating and specialized in wedding and birthday cakes. Michael quickly learned the business and became responsible for finances and administration. 1 year after the reunion, the family decided to throw a party to celebrate the date. "It was exactly 1 year ago that Rachel walked into my room with that cake," said Mrs. Catherine during the celebration. "And said those words that changed our lives," Michael added. "Eat this cake and you will suffer no more," Dorothy repeated. "Truer words were never spoken." "And why did you say that, Rachel?" asked Karen. "What made you so sure?" "Because I knew that cake carried more than ingredients. It carried love, it carried memories, it carried hope. And it carried the recipe to heal a broken family," said Robert. "The best part," said Mrs. Catherine, "is that the suffering really did end. Not because life became perfect, but because we have each other to face whatever comes. And we have the bakery," added Michael, "our special place where all the stories began and continue." "Do you know what the most beautiful part of this whole story is?" asked Dorothy. "What?" everyone asked in unison. "It's that it wasn't the cake that healed us, it was love. The cake was just the messenger." "And what was the message?" asked Rachel. "That it's never too late to start over. That true love always finds a way. That family isn't just blood but also choice. And that an old recipe can be the key to a new future," Michael concluded. That night, after everyone had left, Dorothy and Catherine stayed alone in the bakery, as they did every night before closing. "Catherine, are you happy?" asked Dorothy. "Happier than I ever imagined I could be again. And you?" "Me too. Do you know what makes me happiest?" "What?" "It's that when I die, I won't die alone. I'll die surrounded by family, by love, by people who care about me." "Dorothy, stop talking about death." "It's not talking about death, Catherine. It's talking about life, about how our life became complete." "It's true. Our life became complete. And you know what else?" "What?" "Tomorrow I'm going to teach the special cake to Karen, so the recipe is never lost. And to Robert's grandchildren too. To everyone. So that when we are no longer here, they know how to make the cake that saved our family. The cake that brought love back. The cake that proved it's never too late to be happy." They hugged one last time before closing the bakery and heading to their homes. Catherine returned to the house she now shared with Michael, who had become not just a more present son, but a true companion. Dorothy returned to the house she shared with Robert, where they had dinner together, talked about plans for the next day, and fell asleep side by side like the loving couple they had become. Rachel returned to her small apartment, but she was no longer alone in the world. She had a family now, a family that had adopted her and that she had chosen. Michael stayed up late at home, thinking about how his life had changed. A year before, he was a successful but lonely doctor, carrying a guilt that was eating him up inside. Now he was a novice baker, surrounded by love and forgiveness. Jennifer slept at Robert and Dorothy's house, along with the children, enjoying the last days of the school break to be closer to the family. 2 weeks after this celebration, something unexpected happened that would once again test the strength of this newly reunited family. Mrs. Catherine fell ill during the night and was admitted to the hospital. The doctors diagnosed a severe pneumonia, complicated by her advanced age and the fragility of her immune system. Michael was desperate. He had just emotionally reunited with his mother, and now he risked losing her physically. "Dr. Anderson," said the doctor who was caring for Mrs. Catherine, "her condition is serious. Her age isn't helping." "Doctor, tell me the truth. What are her chances?" "It's hard to say. It will depend a lot on her willpower, on the family's support. She has a lot of family support. That's important. Patients with a strong support network tend to recover better." Michael left the doctor's office and found the whole family in the waiting room. Dorothy was visibly shaken. Robert was comforting her. Rachel was holding Jennifer's hand, who had brought the children to the hospital. "How is she?" asked Dorothy. "Serious, Aunt. Very serious." "Is she going to be okay?" "The doctors don't know. It depends on her." "Can I see her?" "We all can. The doctor said family support is important." They entered the room where Mrs. Catherine was admitted. She was conscious but very weak. "Hi, family," she said in a hoarse voice. "Mom, how are you feeling?" asked Michael. "Tired, son. Very tired." "Catherine," said Dorothy, holding her sister's hand, "you need to get better. We just found each other again." "Dorothy, if anything happens to me, nothing is going to happen. But if it does, I want you to know that this last year was the happiest of my life." "Catherine, stop talking nonsense. You're going to get better, and we're going to have many more happy years together." "Rachel," called Mrs. Catherine, "come here, dear." Rachel approached the bed. "Thank you for saving our family." "Mrs. Catherine, you're going to get better. You're strong." "I'm tired of being strong, dear." Michael felt his heart tighten upon hearing these words from his mother. "Mum, you can't give up now." "Michael, I'm not giving up. I'm at peace. For the first time in years, I'm at peace." "But we need you." "You have each other. You'll be fine." Dorothy began to cry. "Catherine, I can't lose you again. Not now." "Dorothy, if I go, it won't be like the first time. This time, you'll know that I loved you until the last minute, that there wasn't a single day I didn't think of you fondly." "Catherine, and if I stay, we'll enjoy each day as if it were the last, because now we know how precious the time we have together is." At that moment, a nurse entered the room. "I'm sorry, but visiting hours are over. Only one person can stay." "I'll stay," said Michael immediately. "Michael, let me stay," asked Dorothy. "Aunt, you need to rest." "Michael," said Mrs. Catherine, "let your aunt stay with me today. Tomorrow you can stay." Michael hesitated but ended up agreeing. Dorothy spent the entire night by her sister's bedside, holding her hand, talking softly, reminiscing about childhood stories. "Catherine, do you remember the day we got lost at the fair?" "I remember. You cried so much. I was sure I'd never see you again, and I looked for you until I found you. Just like what happened now." "You looked for me through Rachel and found me again." "Dorothy, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Of dying before I've properly enjoyed this time we've gained together." "Catherine, you are not going to die. Not now." "How do you know?" "Because we still have many recipes to exchange, many stories to tell, many days to live together." "And what if we don't? Then we'll enjoy the ones we have." "But I think we do." The next morning, Mrs. Catherine woke up feeling a little better. The doctors were surprised by the improvement. "It's remarkable," the doctor said to Michael. "Her vital signs improved greatly overnight." "What does that mean?" "It means she's responding well to the treatment. If she continues like this, she could be discharged in a week." Michael left the hospital for the first time in 2 days to give the good news to the rest of the family. "She's better," he announced as he entered the bakery. Everyone celebrated, and Rachel suggested they make a special cake to take to Mrs. Catherine at the hospital. "How about the cake that started it all?" suggested Robert. "The cornmeal and coconut cake," added Jennifer. "It's perfect," said Dorothy. "Let's make it together." For the first time, the whole family participated in preparing the special cake. Dorothy directed the recipe, Michael stirred the batter, Jennifer measured the ingredients, Rachel monitored the oven, Robert decorated, and even Robert's grandchildren helped. When the cake was ready, they took it to the hospital. Mrs. Catherine was sitting up in bed, visibly better. "We brought a surprise for you," said Rachel. "What surprise?" "The cake that saved our family," said Michael, presenting the sweet to his mother. "Did you make it together?" "We did," said Dorothy. "All of us." "Then it must be delicious." They cut the cake and ate together in the hospital room, laughing and talking as if they were in the bakery. "You know what I realized?" said Mrs. Catherine after eating a piece of cake. "What?" everyone asked. "That this cake really does have special powers. Every time I eat it, something good happens in my life." "The first time, you found your sister again," Rachel recalled. "The second time, you gained a brother-in-law," added Michael. "And now?" asked Jennifer. "Now I realized I'm not going to die anytime soon, because I still have a lot of cake to eat with all of you." Everyone laughed, and Michael realized his mother really was much better. A week later, Mrs. Catherine was discharged from the hospital. The whole family went to pick her up, and they threw a party at the bakery to celebrate. "Catherine," said Dorothy, "now that you're cured, what do you want to do first?" "I want to learn how to make that special cake, the complete recipe, all the secrets." "Why?" "Because if it really has healing powers, I want to know how to prepare it for other people who need healing." "That's a great idea," said Rachel. "We could create a special line at the bakery. Therapeutic cakes." "Rachel, do you think that would work?" asked Michael. "Dr. Michael, if it worked for your family, it can work for other families too." And that's how the family bakery's newest specialty was born. Cakes made especially for occasions of reconciliation, emotional healing, and the celebration of love. The idea was so successful that they soon needed to hire more staff to keep up with the demand. Customers would arrive with stories of separated families, couples in crisis, lost friendships, and they always left with a special cake and renewed hope. "Do we really create magical cakes?" asked Jennifer one day. "Jennifer," replied Dorothy, "the magic isn't in the cake. The magic is in the love with which it's made, and in the intention of the one who gives and the one who receives. And does that really work? It worked for us, didn't it? 2 years after the sisters' reunion, the family had become a small, prosperous business, known throughout New York for the reconciliation cakes. Michael had discovered he was an excellent manager, in addition to being a talented baker. Jennifer had developed a delivery system that took the special cakes all over the city. Rachel had created dozens of new recipes, all based on the philosophy that food made with love has healing powers. Robert had become the official storyteller of the bakeries, always ready to tell customers the story of how it all began. Mrs. Catherine and Dorothy alternated between the two shops, supervising everything and ensuring that the quality and care remained in every product. Robert's grandchildren, now young men of 17 and 19, worked in the shops in their spare time and planned to study gastronomy to continue the family business. On a special afternoon, exactly 2 years after that first "Eat this cake, and you will suffer no more," the family gathered at the original bakery for a celebration. "Do you remember how it all began?" asked Rachel. "How could we forget?" said Michael. "I was a bitter man, full of guilt and remorse." "And I was an old lady with no will to live," added Mrs. Catherine. "And I was a lonely woman, thinking I would never see my family again," said Dorothy. "And I was a young caregiver who couldn't bear to see so much unnecessary suffering," Rachel finished. "And look at us now," said Robert. "We are a big, united, prosperous and happy family." "And all because someone had the courage to offer a cake with love," observed Jennifer. "Actually," said Dorothy, "all because someone had the courage to speak the truth." Rachel could have limited herself to taking care of Catherine's physical health, but she decided to care for her soul as well. "Mrs. Dorothy," said Rachel, "I only did what anyone who loves would do." "No, Rachel. You did what a courageous person would do. Many people love, but few have the courage to act when love demands sacrifice." "What sacrifice did I make?" "You risked your job, faced Michael's resistance, stirred up dangerous family secrets. You could have caused a catastrophe. But I didn't. I caused a healing." "Exactly. Because you believed in the power of true love." Michael stood up and asked for everyone's attention. "I would like to make a toast." "To what?" asked Mrs. Catherine. To Rachel, who taught us that it's never too late to fix our mistakes. To my Aunt Dorothy, who taught us that forgiveness is the greatest force in the world. To my mother, who taught us that family love overcomes any difficulty. And to you too, Michael, said Dorothy, for finding the courage to face your mistakes and changing your life completely. To all of us, said Robert, for proving that family is built every day with choices of love. They toasted with fruit juice, served in the special glasses they used only on very special occasions. And now, asked Jennifer, what are the plans for the future? To keep growing, said Michael, not just as a business, but as a family. And to keep spreading love through the bakery, added Rachel. And who knows, one day write a book telling our story, suggested Mrs. Catherine. What for? Asked Dorothy. To show other families that there is always hope, there is always a second chance. That's a great idea, agreed Robert. Our story could inspire many people. What would the book title be? Asked Jennifer. Eat this cake and you will suffer no more, said Rachel immediately. Perfect. Everyone agreed. And so, 2 years after a simple cornmeal and coconut cake completely changed a family's destiny, not only a thriving business was born, but a new life philosophy based on the healing power of true love. The bakery continued to grow, serving not only customers who wanted tasty sweets, but people seeking a recipe to heal wounds of the soul. Michael became a completely different man, lighter, more loving, more present. He learned not only how to make cakes, but how to make peace with himself. Mrs. Catherine fully regained her will to live. At 80 years old, she was more active and happy than she had been at 70. Dorothy and Robert lived a happy marriage, proving that love can blossom at any age. Jennifer found professional and personal fulfillment, finding in New York not only a new career, but a new family. Rachel grew from a caregiver to a businesswoman, but never lost the sensitivity that made her notice a family's suffering and decide to act to heal it. And the cakes? The cakes continued to be made with the same love, the same dedication, the same care that turned a simple recipe into a powerful formula for family healing. Because, in the end, the true recipe wasn't for cake. It was a recipe for love. A generous cup of courage, 2 tablespoons of truth, a pinch of forgiveness, a lot of tenderness in the preparation, and the certainty that it's never too late to start over. End of story. Now tell me, dear listener, what did you think of this moving story? Do you believe a simple gesture of love can completely transform a family's destiny? Leave your opinion in the comments and share your own experiences of family reconciliation. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heart-touching stories. Your participation is very important to us.